A two-week ceasefire has been reached between the United States and Iran. We don't have all the details on it just yet, but that is not the end of the conflict. And joining us now so we can learn more about the situation and what it means for the area is University of Utah Assistant Professor Alborz Ghandehari. And thanks so much for being with us. And quickly set the stage for us, your background on this whole situation and the country of Iran.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. So I'm an assistant professor at the University of Utah in ethnic, gender, and disability studies. My family is originally from Iran. My research is on social movements and the pro-democracy movement in Iran. I just published a book last year called Post-Revolutionary Conditions, which is analyzing oral history interviews I conducted with key leaders in Iran's feminist and democracy movements. And so, I want to uphold right now for your viewers that this US-Israeli war on Iran so far has killed nearly 2,000 civilians. And despite the claims of the United States and Israeli governments that they're conducting this war to liberate Iranians, to bring them democracy, many civil resistance leaders, many pro-democracy activists have actually been condemning the war, have been condemning its devastating effects, its destruction, and believe that this war is only serving the interests of the United States and Israeli governments.
Well, President Trump has openly said the people of Iran want this. They want us there. You're saying that's not true.
That's not true. Absolutely, right? I mean, when you talk about bombing an entire civilization back to the Stone Ages, when you talk about a whole civilization will die tonight, when international law experts are saying that Trump is, many of them are saying that Trump is admitting to his intent to conduct war crimes in Iran by saying that we're going to bomb civilian infrastructure, we're going to bomb power plants, we're going to bomb bridges. It is very much a violation of international law and amounts to war crimes to put large numbers of civilians at risk. So when Iranians see that, they think, okay, this is not about my well-being, right? This is not about saving me or bringing my country into democracy, but it's about whatever the United States government, whatever cost that they want to achieve their own interests. And many of us who are Iranian, in the diaspora are worried, sick about the well-being of our family members back in Iran. It's very hard to get in touch because the Iranian government has cut off the internet access. So we don't know. It was very hard back in January when the Iranian government had killed thousands of protesters, cracking down on protests, right, and then shutting off the internet. We were, worried sick for the well-being of our family members then, and now we're worried sick for the well-being of our family members under the bombs of Israel and the U.S. when Trump is saying we are going to bomb this civilization back into the Stone Ages.
Okay, so they are pro-democracy. I take it they want freedom, but how do they get that freedom?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, many of the key civil resistance leaders, political prisoners currently in Iran have been loud and clear, first of all, that they oppose this war. So, for example, Narges Mohammadi, who is a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, women's rights activist, has sacrificed so much for the cause of freedom and democracy in Iran, has been vocal now and before about her opposition to war. Political prisoners like Barishe Moradi, who is Kurdish civil rights activist and women's rights activist, also vocal in her opposition to war, believing that this is about U.S. and Israeli interests. And keep in mind, this is an activist who had received the death sentence from the Iranian state, and that death sentence was recently overturned because of international solidarity, putting pressure on the Iranian state, and that's been slated for retrial. People like Esmail Bakhshi, who was a former political prisoner, labor activist, all of these people have condemned war and have been very clear that when we have international solidarity from people, from unions, not from states bombing us, but from grassroots organizations, from movements around the world, putting our struggle front and center, putting pressure on the state, to making sure that the state knows that it's being watched, right? Then we can get death sentences lifted. We can get, women actually during the Woman Life Freedom Uprising.
Okay, let me get
for
your
a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let me get your immediate reaction here to the ceasefire. Is this going to work?
So it's really hard to tell with regards to the ceasefire because, again, as we know, the Trump administration and President Trump has been known to act unpredictably. The Israeli government has been known to act unpredictably. The Islamic Republic of Iran, the Iranian state, has been known to act unpredictably. So it's hard to know, exactly how this ceasefire will play out. Again, what I can tell you is that Iranians are calling for an end to these bombings, for an end to the war. They're calling for the world to both document the human rights atrocities of the Iranian state and the war crimes that are being perpetrated on Iran by the US and Israel, to document the harm that is coming to many civilians from these bombings, and really wanting the world to understand, we're caught between the domestic violence being meted out by our state and the violence being meted out by foreign powers. And what we want is both democracy, but also independent self-determination for our future without foreign powers deciding what our future is going to be for their economic and geopolitical interests.
And I guess the real question is, and the work ahead is, how do they achieve all of that? It's very complex.
Absolutely. And if I could just say something about that, during the Woman Life Freedom Uprising, where women, countless women and people across Iran came out after the killing in custody of Jina Amini, Mahsa Amini, for so-called improper hijab, they took matters into their own hands, again, at great risk. There was repression, there was killings, but after that, we saw that in many cities, the state did not dare to enforce compulsory hijab because it had become so unpopular and there was such a reaction. So we do see that through their own efforts, Iranians are moving their own struggle for democracy forward.
Okay. I really appreciate your time with us. Unfortunately, we've run out of time here because it's very fascinating to get deep into this and some of the issues. Alborz Ghandehari, thank you very much for being with us this morning. The best to you. And we'll
thank you so much for having me.
this. Yeah.